Hello, hello the world. We are checking the connections. We have another 3 minutes. So we have to be on the Facebook on my page. Yes, live. If you will go there, I think you can share.
So I go to Facebook?
Yeah. And you can share also from the YouTube. On YouTube, I'm also live now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I think it's better if you will share from YouTube.
Okay. Let's see.
Nadia?
I'm not logged into YouTube.
I'll give you the link. Let's see. I will give you the link now. This is the link. I sent you the links via Messenger.
Okay.
And you can just post it on your Facebook page and then come back to the interview. Because anyway it is live, so someone who will click it will see it. And
Okay. I definitely have it on Facebook. I'm not 100% sure on YouTube, but I will post it on our YouTube.
you're 100% on the Facebook.
Okay.
There. And here it works also. Uh-huh. Okay. Okay. Yeah, here we are.
Okay. We're good?
Good. So, welcome Jill and Chris. I'm so excited of this my guest today because they are doing something what I was dreaming to do, but I had never enough courage to do this. So they took off to Africa and they are actually traveling Africa independently. And
Yes,
they're
we are.
artists. And please tell us the whole story from the beginning. How actually it appeared that you decided to travel full time. You're Canadian. How you left Canada, why you left Canada, and how actually you appeared in Africa. Tell us.
Okay. Want me to start?
You might just start, yeah.
So the story starts about 4 years ago. Actually, almost 5 years ago. It was January 11th, 2017, when I was watching the Minimalism documentary on Netflix. And we had been sort of struggling with having too much stuff, and we'd been struggling with debt and finances and all these things. And it was just like the stars aligned or something when I watched that documentary, because it all of a sudden just hit me that we just had too much stuff, and if we didn't have all this stuff, we could travel. We were always trying to like figure out ways to travel more and go on holidays and all these things, and it was just always such a struggle, just trying to even keep up with our day-to-day bills with the house and the cars and the insurance and all these things. And I just had sort of epiphany moment that if we got rid of all of it, then we could maybe travel full time. We wouldn't have the debt load or the overhead, the expenses that we have living in a house in Canada. So so that was sort of the start of it. And then we spent 9 months getting rid of all of our possessions, selling them, giving them away, doing whatever we could to downsize. We also had to finish renovating our house. We had kind of pulled it apart in the preceding 4 years and not really put it back together. So we had to get it all renovated and put back together so we could sell it. And then also finish and wrap up our jobs. We were both independently employed. I had a painting company, house painting company, and Chris had a landscaping company. So we had to sort of wrap up all of our clients and get that all finished. And then in October of 2017, we flew to Costa Rica, where we had a house sitting job for 2 months on the beach, and we just sort of collapsed after our crazy 9 months on the beach there for a couple months. And that job led into another house sitting job just down the beach from there for another 2.5 months. So we spent 4.5 months actually just sort of on that beach, sort of adjusting to our new life. And then we traveled around Central America for 2 years in the Caribbean, doing different things. We painted murals in exchange for accommodation, and we volunteered at a botanical garden in the Caribbean for 6 months. And then after that was all done, we wanted to go back to Canada for just a visit. My parents were downsizing their house because they wanted to sell it and get into a smaller space. So I wanted to go back and help them. And it was also their 50th wedding anniversary. So we threw a surprise party for them. And then in January of 2020, we flew to Morocco. And we've pretty much been in Africa ever since.
And how, I want to know in details about minimalism and how you actually downsize, because this is actually what I'm doing now and I'm struggling with this. So you said 9 months it took from you 9 months. Yeah, I'm going through my 3-bedroom. Oh my God, for 3 months already. And it's a catastrophe. So you downsized really to the suitcases?
Pretty much, yeah. We have everything that we own with us, which in the grand scheme of things, it's not a lot, but in the sense of traveling, it is a lot.
Yeah, slowly because, we usually travel slowly because we have a lot of stuff to drag around with us. I mean, not like trunks of stuff, but we each have a very large suitcase and backpack, and sometimes we have like 5 bags that we're hauling around with us. So we're not light travelers, that's for sure.
This is what I want to know, because actually after people downsize, I'm going to travel with my son, and we're gonna have something like 5 big bags, big suitcases.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it is doable.
Yeah,
it's doable, yes.
for sure. It's the kind of thing too that once you get on the road, you sort of like can fine tune what you need. I mean, you sort of take, like when we first went, we took a tent. I mean, we had all this crazy stuff. And, over time, it was just like, okay, we used our tent.
We don't need
3
this
times.
anymore.
Yeah. So you sort of start to fine tune what you actually do need, and then once.
And how did you succeed to get this house sitting job? Which site is this? Trusted House Sitters?
No, we're with housecarers.com.
House carers. Because I registered on all the sites, but I never succeeded to get anything. And okay. And you're in Morocco in 2020, and you got into.
We volunteered at a few different hotels and hostels. We painted murals. At first, we were in the north of Morocco in a place called Chefchaouen, which is a beautiful place up in the mountains. There's actually a lot of greenery around there, and like a lot of wilderness. We painted around at a hostel there. And then eventually we got another gig in Tinria, which is like, I don't know, like kind of in the middle of Morocco, more central Morocco. It's relatively close-ish to the Sahara. And that's when COVID kind of came along and we got locked down in the one place. And we didn't leave that place for about, when was the first time we actually left the doors?
I think it was, we were there for 2.5 months, and I think in the time that we were there, we actually only left the hostel doors like 5 times. We actually stayed inside. Our host wasn't great.
You survived that time. You could not do any painting. You was locked in the other country.
We pretty much painted his entire hostel.
Yeah, that's all we did. I think our art saved our sanity.
Yeah.
We just kept going and painting.
Yeah. And well, he also had a rooftop terrace that overlooked like a really beautiful, it was like kind of a farm garden area, and it was absolutely beautiful. So that definitely helped a lot too.
Yeah, so we went up there, but I think we sort of we overdid did the lockdown thing, our host wasn't good at communicating with us,
No.
and I think we were, we had heard all these rules that you're not supposed to leave your house and you can't do this and you can't do that, and he actually had to go at the very beginning. He had to go and get a piece of paper from the government saying that he was in charge of the household and he was the one that was supposed to do all the shopping and get supplies and stuff. And he actually had to present that paper at the beginning to even purchase anything. So we sort of took that as, well, we don't have the paper and we're not allowed out of the house. So I think we sort of overdid it, but we wanted to respect the Moroccan government. We're visitors. We were visitors in their country. They were allowing us to stay. And yeah, I just had these visions of like, if we left, we'd be thrown into the back of a paddy wagon or something and dragged away. So we just wanted to behave ourselves, which we did. But yeah, it was a really interesting time.
So, and then from Morocco, where you moved?
So after Tingria, we went out to the Sahara Desert to visit a friend for a little while.
Wait a moment, it was still COVID, it was still lockdown, it was still restrictions. Yes?
Yes.
So how did you?
Yeah. As of like July 15th, they made an announcement that they opened the borders, and so the borders were closed from about like mid-April till mid-July, and they opened the borders, and then they said foreigners could leave. Many people did leave, a lot of people didn't leave, and there was rumors circulating that if foreigners didn't leave by
many
August
people
10th,
did leave. So really many people died there.
We didn't see anything like that.
Like,
it was really chill.
Yeah.
And there was tons of food all the time. There was no supply shortages.
No one fought for toilet paper.
Yeah, there was no hoarding. They don't know what hoarding is.
Yeah.
But we found it very, very chill, and we were very happy to be there. And we really didn't want to leave at the beginning. They said we could, but we didn't want to. But then we heard this rumor that we had to leave by August 10th, and so we booked flights to. I think it was, and like 5 days before our flight, they canceled the flight, and so we thought, okay, well, this means we're supposed to stay. So we just sort of ignored all these warnings, and we found out later that it was just a hoax that somebody had put out on Facebook, anyways. And we went out to Essaouira, which is a coastal city in Morocco, and we rented an apartment really cheap on Airbnb, 2.5 more months, and we stayed till mid-October.
Yeah. So we were Morocco for about 9 months or so.
Yeah, 9 months altogether.
Yeah.
And then from there we
tours in Morocco now. I think you know country perfectly, and you can make your own Moroccan tours. Yes? No? You can bring tourists in Morocco. No? After 9 months.
They've actually just done another lockdown. They canceled a bunch of flights for 2 weeks. So it was open for a while. And then they've just closed it again. Yeah, we had friends who were supposed to go there.
Yeah. And, I think they've done a few different lockdowns. Like they've closed the borders a few times now.
Yeah, it's pretty uncertain there for sure. But anyways, we flew to Istanbul. So we were trying to figure out, well, where do we want to go? I mean, it was like, to us, Morocco was our safe haven, and we were happy to be there because everything was great and fine, and it's an affordable place to be. But it was also, it was wearing on us. There's a different culture there. I wanted to get to a place where I could like show my shoulders and dress how I do, and we just needed a change. As travelers, we're curious. So we decided to book a flight to Istanbul because Turkey had no restrictions at the time. There was no PCR test.
No, and I don't even think Turkey even did a lockdown.
Yeah, there was really nothing when we arrived. So we went to Istanbul and we got another mural painting job, and we ended up staying just in Istanbul at that.
How do you find those mural painting jobs?
Jill's a very good communicator.
Yeah, I basically go online and I can go on Facebook and type in Istanbul hostels, or go online and research Istanbul hostels, and then I just get contact information and I send emails. We have our website now, so I can link them to our website so they can see some of our past work and just explain what we do. And usually it's not hard. I usually message like maybe 4 or 5 places, and 1 or 2 will get back to us for sure. So yeah.
Wow. Okay. I need to learn how to paint.
all you have to do is practice and play around with it. That's how you paint.
Yeah.
I I was an artist before, but I never painted, and like I was actually really afraid of painting, and never wanted to. And now I love it. So
Mm-hmm.
But you're drawing pictures. You're
yeah,
drawing something very beautiful. Who is designing
Yeah.
it?
we both
We
do
both do.
actually.
Yeah, they're usually collaborations. Sometimes we'll each have sort of our own project, like depending on where we are and if there's enough space. We'll each sort of split off and have our own little project. But we help each other out, and we bounce ideas off each other and that kind of thing. So it's usually some sort of a collaboration at the end, anyways.
Okay, so Istanbul, and after Istanbul, what happened after?
Egypt. Oh, and we didn't like Egypt a whole lot.
Yeah.
Why?
We decided we were in Istanbul until it was into December when it started getting cold, and we started realizing we're not into cold. We're tired of winters, and in 2020, before we had flown to Morocco, we accidentally stayed in Canada too long, and it got really cold. It was 36 the day we flew to Morocco, and we sort of declared when we were in Central America we don't want to do Canadian winters or cold winters anymore.
Cold winter, yeah.
So it started getting cold. So we thought, okay. And a lot of travelers in the hostel where we were staying had been talking about Egypt quite a bit. So, and we knew it was warm down there. And we started looking at flights, and the flights were $49 each, if you can believe it. So
wow.
we Egypt, and we just thought, let's just get to Egypt, and then from there we'll see what happens.
Istanbul, Egypt, $49.
Yeah.
My God, I have to get out of Australia as soon as possible. You can't imagine what is from Australia, wherever you want to fly. One-way tickets, 1,500. One way, 1,500 from here.
We understand. Canada's the same. I mean, to get out of Canada is a huge journey, and it's the same for Australia, I'm sure. And even within Canada, the traveling within Canada is crazy expensive. Yeah.
Yeah, same here. So you came into Egypt, and where did you stay in Egypt? Was it Cairo?
We landed in Hurghada, and then we ended up traveling by bus and train down to Aswan.
In the south.
Yes, Aswan, right? Yeah. We got we.
Why did you decide where you were going? Why did you decide on Hurghada and then this Aswan?
Well, Hurghada was actually the cheap flight.
The cheap flight, yeah.
Okay.
Aswan was also mostly because we actually got a painting gig in Aswan as well.
But also to rewind a little bit, Hurghada has a ferry, usually a ferry running to Dahab Sharm el-Sheikh, which is over in the Sinai Peninsula, and Dahab is where all these people that we had talked to said that we should go. It's supposed to be a really cool sort of eclectic community there, and super chill, and it's not.
Sorry for interruption. Do you want to say that Dahab is better than Sharm el-Sheikh and Hurghada?
Yes.
Yeah, from what we're told, we didn't get because the ferry was canceled due to COVID.
Yeah.
So, it was going to be like a 15-hour bus ride up the coast and then around, or we could go south to Aswan. And we met a local man, and he suggested we go south to Aswan. He said there's more Egyptian culture there, and he just thought it would be a better experience for us. Whereas Dahab is more westernized, I guess, and it's, sort of like a hippie community, I guess. So, so we thought, that sounds interesting. We're here in Egypt to see Egypt and the Egyptian culture, so that's what we did.
So we stayed on Elephantine Island, which is on the Nile River, which is just right beside Aswan.
It is an island in the sea or in the sea?
In the Nile River. In the Nile River.
In the Nile River. Okay.
Yeah. And Elephantine Island is one of the places where the Nubians live. And the Nubians are very proud to admit that they are not Egyptian. Egyptians are very aggressive, and it's just the Egyptians ruined the experience in Egypt. So when we got to every time we had to go way back into Aswan to go get stock up on food and other things like that, we had to prepare ourselves mentally for the barrage of annoyance that was coming with it. Oh man. And then we would get back to Elephantine Island and we'd relax again. And it felt good.
Yeah, the people were really different.
Yeah,
they were just super chill, really like nice and kind and calm. And the Egyptians are just they're very like wound up and aggressive, and of course, you know, tourism's down, so they're all desperate to make money. So we had like a cloud of like 10 of them chasing us down the road, just like hounding us. And then, you know, when we did stop to buy something, we always got ripped off.
At least they would try. And then, like, fortunately, having like spent time in Morocco, we kind of knew what the prices of things should be. So, and I also learned Arabic while we were in Morocco, which also helped being in Egypt.
Yeah.
So it helped with that, but even then, they still tried to constantly rip us off.
Yeah, so we didn't have the greatest experience with them, but we were painting murals on Elephantine Island. That was how we ended up there. Again, when we decided that's where we were going, I sent some emails, and one man got back to us, and so that's how we sort of ended up in that area. Unfortunately, that mural project didn't quite end nicely. It's the first time that's ever happened to us, but the owner just wasn't listening. He expected a lot from us in a short amount of time, and we kept saying, you know, these things take time. It's going to take time, and he was just sort of hounding us, and we sort of wrapped up the project to the point where, you know, it looked okay. It wasn't finished in our minds, but it looked okay for anyone else who was looking at it. We just leaving. And once we left his place, it was like, why are we here? We got to get out of here. You know, Egypt's driving us crazy, and we didn't know where else to go, because we had heard that up in the north the people are even more aggressive and all these things. And so
we had kind of thought about, well, maybe we could just go to Greece. Like, it'd be a quick flight, but then we learned Greece still was not open and you couldn't actually get there.
We actually have thoughts of flying again, which we don't actually like to fly. We prefer, like, environmentally and experience wise, we really just prefer to travel as simply as possible by land, usually in a bus or a train with the locals. We just feel like that's such a much more enriching experience, and plus you see the landscape and much more of the country when you do it that way. So then we heard from somebody about Sudan.
Yeah, somebody said Sudan was actually like a totally different experience.
You are so brave.
It's a neighboring Egypt, but it's
Sudan. When you say the word Sudan, what comes into my mind is the news. News about the war in Sudan, hunger in Sudan, etc., etc. You just don't watch the news. I know. You don't watch TV.
We'd heard bad things also. I mean, when you hear Sudan, you think, oh my goodness, wars and all these things. But
terrorism from there. Oh my God, like, things like that.
The government shifted in 2019, and they were moving towards democracy. Unfortunately, there's been a coup recently, and the military has taken over again. But you know, we might have had that golden ticket to go in and see the country while it was in a peaceful state. And we honestly, the minute we got on the bus from Aswan and started, talking with the Sudanese people, it was a completely different experience. They were so kind and so
Which
nice.
language you're talking to them, Sudan? Which language?
Arabic.
They're Arabic
and
also.
the northern Sudan, like the northern.
You speak Arabic.
I speak Arabic. Yeah.
He speaks a bit, well, conversational Arabic.
Yeah,
I guess
I'm not fluent, but I can get by.
That was one of the things.
Where did you learn it?
Morocco.
Yeah.
Morocco, and also they speak Arabic in Egypt, so it's a bit of a different dialect. But once you see the similarities, it's very easy to pick it up.
He's good with languages.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but they also speak a surprising amount of English in Sudan. Actually, we were the young people, especially.
Yeah.
You know, if you found somebody under 30, they quite likely spoke English, at least, anyways. So, but yeah, it was definitely. It was definitely brave. I mean, we didn't know what we were getting into, and it was just such a different world from anything we had seen before. I mean, the minute the bus crossed the border, well, first of all, the bus trying to get down there was interesting. We spent 14 hours overnight at the border, sleeping on the bus, and
it was in the middle of the desert.
Okay, tell me. And you're traveling with your luggage. You have some big bags, yes? And you're in the bus. Where are your bags?
Underneath.
They were stuffed in the back.
Yeah, on that particular bus, they were at the back, stuffed in like a huge mound of other stuff. Yeah, basically.
Because the Sudanese go to Egypt to actually buy things like refrigerators and washing machines and like things like pasta and other stuff, because
cheaper.
a lot of things are cheaper to get in Egypt for them. So they go up there and then they buy these things and then they load them on the bus and then they take them back down to Sudan.
Mm-hmm.
So they have some kind of the compartment for the luggage, yes?
Oh, the compartments were full with all sorts of stuff, and then they packed everything else into the back of the bus.
Yeah, the back probably 3 rows were stuff, and underneath the bus was full. And the craziest part about all of it is that when we left Egypt, like when we crossed the border, we left Egypt, they had to unload the entire bus, like absolutely everything had to come out. They have to
look, inspect everything.
So that the Egyptian authorities can inspect everything. Then they put it back on. They drive like a kilometer to the Sudanese
Not even a
border,
kilometer, like
whatever, 500 meters, and then everything has to come off again, and they have to inspect everything again. So, I mean, it was just hours and hours of unpacking and repacking, and I mean, it was just so crazy. And we didn't, at that point, nobody really was speaking English, or at least nobody had approached us and spoke English.
Yeah.
So we didn't know what was going on. We just sat there. And then the bus finally started putting stuff back on, and we thought, thank goodness, let's get out of here. So we had left at 11 o'clock in the morning. They told us it was a 12-hour drive to Khartoum. So we're thinking, okay, we're going to get paid at like midnight or whatever.
It's only a technically 12-hour ride to Khartoum. If you drive straight, yes, it can be 12 hours.
So
if you drive straight.
Yeah. So they loaded everything back on the bus, and we thought it was about 9 o'clock at night at that point. And we thought, okay, thank goodness, let's get out of here, you know. And Chris and I got on the bus, and we immediately fell asleep. And it started getting cold, and we didn't have any cold weather stuff with us because it was all in our suitcases, which were buried in the back. And had somebody told us we were sleeping there, we would have pulled out some warm clothes. But it was in the desert. I mean, it probably got down to like 8 degrees that night or something. I mean, it was
in
really
Africa.
cold.
It can be 8 degrees in Africa. Okay, now I know it's winter in Africa.
Yeah. I mean, Egypt can be like 45 degrees in the daytime and in the middle of the desert down to like 6 to 10 degrees at night. So it was crazy. But anyways, we snuggled each other on the bus and fell asleep. And at like, I don't know, it was around midnight, I think, or something. Somebody came on the bus and they were talking and talking and talking. We started looking around. The bus was still there, and there's people sleeping on the floor and in the seats and all over.
There was actually
all over the place.
People actually were even sleeping outside on the ground.
Yeah,
at like random. I couldn't believe it.
It was crazy. And so we were freezing, and we're just going, oh, what is going on? And then finally at 4 o'clock in the morning, the bus started honking its horn. Some guy's jiggling his keys. And we started pulling out of there. So we spent the entire night sleeping in this freezing cold bus, and we didn't know that we were going to be doing that. Yeah. So, anyways, we got to Khartoum the next afternoon at about like 3 or 4 o'clock or 2 o'clock or something like that. And thankfully,
how much was the ticket for this bus? The ticket for this bus, how much it?
It wasn't very expensive.
No, I'm thinking like maybe $30, something.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the expensive part was the visa, actually. The visa for Sudan was $150 US each, and that only gave us 1 month?
2 months. They gave us
2 months. 2 months, yeah. Yeah, so that was a crazy.
And how actually you had to get the visa? Do they give the visa on the border, or you had to go to I don't know where?
You have to go to the consulate.
Yeah, in
basically.
Aswan. They have
in
a
Aswan,
consulate. Yeah.
So we actually had to leave our passports for 2 days with them before they got everything organized.
Yeah.
It was nervous, but you know, whatever.
And then of course we needed a PCR test, which was $100 in Aswan, which that was crazy. That's the most expensive PCR test we've done so far, for sure. So it wasn't a cheap decision, but we were just so hell bent and determined on going south that we weren't to be swayed. And anyways, we got into Khartoum, and some lady on the bus finally said, "Where are you guys staying?" And we said, "We have no idea." And she said, "Let me help you." And she ordered this big truck. She had her sons with her. She ordered this big truck, and we loaded all of our luggage in the back of the truck, and her and her sons, and we all got in together, and she took us to a hotel. So that was the start. But Sudan turned out to be a bit crazy because we found out within the first 2 days that our cards don't work in the ATMs. They don't have an international banking system. It's like the Sudanese cards work in the ATMs, and that's it.
And that's all.
So we had $90 US with that we had.
So
had
what you had to do?
Well, we told our hotel that the situation and that we were trying to figure out how to get money. And it turned out finally that somebody we spoke to in Canada offered to send us money through Western Union.
Yes.
Which we had never done before and had no idea how it worked, but it really was quite seamless. And the entire time we were in Sudan, basically we had people sending us money through Western Union to keep us going. But yeah, that was scary. That was all of a sudden like, okay, wait a minute, this is not cool. Yeah. But we had $90 US. Like we had changed the rest of our Egyptian liras, I think. Anyway, the Egyptian currency, pounds to US dollars before we left. So thankfully we had a bit to buy food and all that kind of stuff. And the hotel waited until we got some money to pay them.
But then after we left Khartoum, we went to Port Sudan, which is on the Red Sea. And we ended up renting an apartment for 2 months.
Yeah.
For 2 months there.
And it was cheap. It was like $120 a month, I think, or something. Yeah, fully furnished with fridge and stove and, all the things. So that was good. So yeah, we just sort of got there and collapsed.
We didn't have any mural jobs in Sudan, so we basically just focused on our own personal projects, which they tend to get a little bit sidetracked once we're actually working for other people or doing things for other people.
Yeah, we both have online platforms where we sell our artwork and stuff like that. So those things sort of get sidelined when we're painting murals and volunteering. So that was nice.
And those things which you are selling online, they are digital things.
Yes. It's an example of
both examples.
So we design digital art basically, and then you can upload it to platforms, and they do print on demand. So like a company like one of the ones I use is called Printful, and when I upload my design to their shop, I say I want it on t-shirts and leggings and all these things, and then it's integrated with an Etsy store that I have. So as soon as somebody purchases from my Etsy shop, the order goes to Printful, they print the design, they make the item, and they ship it to the customer. So it's completely hands-free, which works really well for this life.
Yeah.
And then
I have seen a shop on Redbubble, but somehow it did not really make a lot of money. It did not. I'm not making a living from this.
You really got to promote. You got to do a lot of your own marketing to actually get those things to take off.
Yeah.
Like Redbubble, like people do go on Redbubble and search for things, but if you're not actually marketing it yourself, you're not going to get a lot of sales. And
it's a lot to do with the SEO. Like you really have to understand how things are searched on the internet, how you tag things, that kind of thing. And the more with those platforms, the more you sell design, the more your designs get pushed up to the top. So it takes time. It definitely takes and diligence for sure.
Okay. So then after.
So I should say, while we're here in Sudan, we probably think the Sudanese people are the nicest people we encountered in the whole world. They were
really
very well.
They were so calm and so peaceful and so lovely.
People would buy us lunch, buy us coffee. Like they always wanted to make sure we were taken care of.
Yeah, they'd see us walking by in the street, and of course they only really opened to tourism in 2019. So, and not even tourism. I mean, there's no tourism infrastructure at all, but they opened to foreigners. So for them to see us on the street is just such an excitement, and they want to know where we're from and what we do and
how we got there and why we got there, things like that.
And they would take us and buy us coffee, and they would refuse to let us pay. They're like, no, you're guests in our country. That's horrifying. Like that would be terrible if we made you pay, these kinds of things. And they were just so nice. I mean, we would walk down. Well, the day we left, we had a 4 o'clock in the morning bus, and we literally walked 2 kilometers with our suitcase down the street at 3 a.m. We were that comfortable in Sudan because there was and people stopped to offer us a ride. I mean, this is the kind of people they are. The horror and the danger we hear about or have heard about is from a dictator government who the man is in jail now, and his military regime, which unfortunately they're the ones that are performing the coup. But the Sudanese are fighting back. They are just like, no, this is not
This
happening.
isn't
We
cool.
want democracy. You know, they're sort of fighting for their freedom. So they're just really lovely people. So we want to like quash that stereotype that it's crazy dangerous there because the Sudanese people are lovely.
Absolutely.
So why did you leave? Just because visa was expired? It was the visa question?
It was kind of like we actually renewed our visa once while we were in Port Sudan because it's a port city. They actually have an immigration office that you can do that. And we
So you can renew visa all the time or just once? What is there? What is their rules for the renewal?
I think we could have continuously done it probably for quite a while. I don't know if they would have ever stopped us, but we could only do 1 month at a time, and it was only like I think it was like $15 or $20 to renew it, you know, the next time. So it was really just the initial one that's expensive. But yeah, we're sort of you know, we were curious. We tend to usually 3 months is our threshold in a place. Like once we're in a place for 3 months, we're kind of like, okay, we're curious, we want to go see something else, and it's time to move on. Morocco obviously was different just because of the circumstances, but yeah. Usually, so we kind of thought, okay, you know, we've experienced Sudan, and it's time to go see something else. So yeah, we made our way back to Khartoum. We actually did a little bit of like sightseeing along the way. We rode on public buses, and we had no problems at all. You know, sometimes like the police or the military would board and want to see our passports and make sure that our visas were legit, which happens in lots of places. And but yeah, we had no problems at all. And went back to Khartoum and then tried to figure out where we wanted to go. We wanted to go by land, but unfortunately,
wanted to go to Ethiopia.
Yeah, there's conflicts at the border between Ethiopia and Sudan, and also South is. It probably would have been fine, but we were told by many people that it's sort of unpredictable. So when you talk about the danger, like South Sudan is still sort of up in the air, I guess, although we met lots of people who went there and they said it was fine too. So, you know, it's one of those things. But yeah, we decided to just fly instead, and we just picked Uganda. We thought it looked green. We both are nature and plant lovers, and we'd spent, you know, the better part of the last year and a half in desert. There's no plants in sight. So we looked on the map and it was like, Uganda, it looks green. Let's go there. So we flew to Uganda.
Did you need the visa for Uganda?
Yes. Yeah, well, you get it at the border.
Yeah.
On the border. And how long is the visa?
That one was 90 days.
Yes.
Yeah, and yeah, one thing led to the other in Uganda.
But you looks like you live now in Uganda. Looks like Uganda is now your home. No?
Well,
it kind of is almost.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely fell in love with Uganda. We fell in love with the people. They're also lovely, lovely, lovely people. The climate is great. Actually, you know, it's at the equator. We were literally living like a kilometer from the equator, but it's high up, so it's got a higher altitude. So it's not that hot. You know, where we were sort of like average like 30, 32 degrees. So it was a great climate. And there is lots of greenery and rivers, and there's mountains and there's glaciers, and there's all these things in Uganda. The place that we ended up is down in the savannah, which is a lot drier. It's more semi-arid, I guess you'd say.
Yeah.
And so we didn't have as much. Well, it's still green, but not in the same way as like a tropical jungle, which you can find in Uganda if you go up further into the north. But yeah, we ended up in this town. Again, we were painting murals. We found a couple different mural painting jobs within the same organization. They own numerous lodges just outside national parks around the country, and their mandate is to promote tourism within the communities. So there's communities that are at the gates of these national parks, and they're training the locals on like craft making and
conservation.
Yeah, the thing. So to bring them an economy. And so we sort of got in with this organization, and we went up into the mountains, into Raboni, first of all, which is at the foot of the Rwenzori Mountains, which is some of the highest mountains in Africa. And we were there for 3 weeks, and then we moved to another property of theirs down in the savannah. And that's where things changed. You want to tell?
Okay, so up in Raboni, which is by the Rwenzori Mountains, we went from a 21-degree average to a 32-degree average, which
Down
honestly, like we felt like up in the mountains, it was still slightly too cool for us because at night it would get a little bit cooler. So yeah, the savannah definitely became a much better climate.
So it
And
was
then
cold. It was cold. It was upper. That's why it was cold. Yes, it was.
Yeah.
yeah,
It's like 1,700 meters.
yeah.
Yeah.
So once we got into the savannah and we started painting, we started interacting a lot more with the community. And then, like one day while we were painting, our host he had brought other tourists into the village for a village tour, village walk kind of thing, and he noticed that all the shops had been closed. And even a couple of days before that, we walked through the village to go pick up some supplies, and like a lot of the places were closed. There was no doors open. We hardly saw anybody in the village at all, which wasn't very normal. So yeah, then 2 days later, Jason comes back after his village tour with the tourists, and he said, "Well, everyone's closed their doors because everybody's starving. There's nobody spending money because nobody's crops are actually doing anything. So things are failing."
Yeah, we had actually watched the crops fail. This was about a month into our stay there, and when we arrived, our host told us that things were really dry. They hadn't had rain in a long time, and this is an area of Uganda where there's no piped water. They depend on rainwater for their own personal water as well as to water the crops. And things looked dry when we arrived, but over time, things withered and withered and withered and withered and withered until finally he said the crops, all their corn, their beans, they didn't harvest anything. And you sort of, you hear that news and you sort of go, oh, that sucks, that's too bad. But you kind of think like, well, the government will help them, or I don't know. You sort of tuck it away into a corner of your brain. You just kind of don't really want to it. And then when Jason said those actual words, while people are starving, and it clicked because also tourism's down. This was a tourist area. Nobody was making any money. Suddenly they have no crops, they have no food, and there's no water. There's water that does get trucked into like a cistern, but of course people have to pay for that. They didn't even have enough money to buy jugs of water, and it just hit. And I was just like, well, what do we need to do? How do we fix this? And thankfully it's a small community. We ended up feeding 245 houses. So Jason basically said they're starving. I jumped into action. I said to Chris, I said, do you think I could ask people on Facebook to donate money? We had no idea if it was going to work. Once before we had tried to raise money for somebody through GoFundMe, and it kind of was, we raised a little bit, but it wasn't what we had hoped for. And we sort of had this no one's going to care attitude, and anyways, I have to try. We have to do something, we can't just sit here and watch this whole community starve and be desperate for water. So I went on Facebook and literally within 2 minutes of me posting that, thankfully Canada has a system where people can e-transfer. We have 5 main banks, and you can send money. You can send an email through your banking system, and even as long as you're a member of these big banks, then you can get the money into your bank account. And within minutes, people started e-transferring money. And by morning, we had $3,000 from friends, just friends on Facebook had sent money.
Wow.
Yeah. So anyways, that evening, I ran down, I said to Jason, I said, money's coming in, and I bet you more is going to come. I said, let's plan to go get food tomorrow. And, little did we know at the time that this is a little bit of a cycle for this community. This isn't their first time being in this situation, and to them it's just like, well, they're starving, but they'll starve for another week. You know what I mean? And I was just like, no, I want these people to have food tomorrow. And anyways, we went to we ordered previous to this, when COVID first hit. The place where we were staying, Elephant Home, because they do work with the community, they actually had purchased food for the community at that time, just to give them sort of a bit of a boost at the beginning. So he had a rough idea of what we needed, thankfully, and all this kind of stuff.
The idea of costs and things like that.
And quantity. So yeah, he rounded up a bunch of volunteers. We ordered a bunch of sacks of flour and beans. It was, cassava flour, which is cassava or yucca flour, beans, and corn flour.
Corn flour, yes.
Yeah, those are sort of the like staples. And we ended up doing salt and soap also, because a lot of them didn't even have money to purchase soap for themselves and to wash clothes and whatever. So so that was the first part. And we got all these bags loaded up with the volunteers, and we started delivering them. And as we're delivering them, I started thinking, well, like, these are all things you need water to cook with. Like, what's the story with the water? You know, we didn't really even know the situation with the water at that point. And Jason said, oh yeah, water's really bad as well, blah, blah, blah. So then we started looking into ways to get water, and we were able to get one of the fire trucks in a nearby city to go fill up in a river, 8,000 liters, and bring it into the community and fill up all of their rain barrels. And we did that every week for, all of it we did for about 10 weeks in total. So we fed them once per week, bags of rations, and then brought water once per week for 10 weeks. Yeah.
And then pretty much after those 10 weeks, it started raining again, and people's crops started doing well again. And little did we know,
so
people
you
actually
rescued them. You just saved them.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
I mean, they this was a particularly hard time for them. They said, they hadn't been in that situation really at all. And with this whole COVID thing, and it's so difficult for everybody right now. So I mean, many people said they can't even, we don't even know what we did. Like they just can't even imagine what their life would have been if we hadn't have been there and done what we did. So it's pretty cool. But we also realized along the way, they're living in the tropics.
Why can't they grow?
Why don't they have like little home gardens and, just have a little bit that they're growing for themselves? Why does everything have to be in these big, huge farm parcels that they're depending on the rain for? Because, if you have a small garden that you're just watering with like your dishwater or your bath water or whatever, these kinds of things, you can at least grow a few things that will probably survive. Mm-hmm. But we realized that the soil is completely depleted of nutrients. They have just farmed and farmed and farmed.
It's like borderline sand.
And the soil is really in bad shape. So Chris and I grew our own food in Canada, or a lot of our own food, and we did a lot of permaculture courses and learned how to like create soil through composting and all these things. So then we started thinking, okay, we need to teach these guys some permaculture techniques so they can rebuild their soil. Because once the soil is stronger, and if they're growing things in a way that cooperates with the environment, things won't dry out so fast. Their whole tilling, where they're tilling and tilling and tilling the soil, and they're constantly like opening it up to the sun. The sun is like burning the nutrients right out of the soil and drying it out all the time, is definitely not helping them. So we sort of decided that, well, if we're going to really make a change here, it's not good enough to just throw food at them once, because they'll be in the same situation next year. We should teach them some techniques as well. So we sort of hunkered down, and we ended up staying in Uganda for 7 months altogether. Yeah, and we just left. But we're going back.
You're going back, and you're going back for how long? What is your plan about Uganda now?
Well, I mean,
we don't really have like basically once we left Uganda into Tanzania, the lady looked at how because we had renewed our visa twice, and basically
how you renew your visa in Uganda?
So the first time you can just go. Well, the first time you can go within the country and renew it at an in Fort Portal, which is the closest immigration office to us. So it's like a 2-hour bus ride away. Yeah. And they're pretty easy to do that. They don't ask too many questions. Usually they'll only extend it 2 months. But because after we had arrived, they introduced a little bit of a travel lockdown. So it was hard to move around. Like there was no public transport and all this kind of stuff. So the immigration officer basically said, well, I'll give you 3 months because it hasn't been easy for you to travel around. Okay, that sounds good.
Sounds great. Yes, why not?
So we got another 3 months, and then after we were doing all the work in the community, we thought we had been, the local government officials in Chikarongo is the name of the community. They knew of us and they knew what we were doing. And we basically went to their office one day and said, look, we're doing all this work for you guys. We came here as tourists, and we'd like to continue our work. There's still projects we're trying to do, things, and can you write us a letter of recommendation? and he did. But it didn't really help us.
No.
But we knew there was a friend of ours from the Philippines who knew a guy in Kampala who was able to extend for us just for another couple months. So yeah, we don't know the exact status of he did it anyways. We got it done. It was an extension stamp. Anyways, and then we only ended up staying for one more month before, well, in that first month of renewal, we got this house sitting job in Botswana, and we were both so tired. I mean,
oh yeah,
we've been building gardens, composting. Like, we started a community compost facility and community garden for them in the community. A lady donated her land for 5 years for us to use as a demonstration space to show the permaculture techniques and how to compost and all this stuff. So we've been working really hard with the villagers. We were also collecting garbage and trying to figure out ways to like reduce the plastic and all these things, different environmental things. So when this house sitting job came up, it was just like, oh, that would be so nice just to take a break for a little. So that's what we ended up doing. So that's where we are now, in Botswana. But yeah, in the new year, we're going to go back. We want to, one of our big focuses is going to be on getting a well in the town, because they just don't have their own water supply. And people have looked into this in the past, and it sounds like right underneath the town is really salty. So that's a little bit of a problem. But there's also some aquifers up in the hills that possibly can be tapped into, and then pipes can come down. So it's something that the government officials told us they have no plans to bring water to this community. So, so really it's up to them to figure out. So if we can raise some money and get that done, that'd be pretty cool. That would solve a lot of their problems.
Yeah. So basically, when we go back, we're like, because when we left into Tanzania, the lady really questioned like what we were doing. So we're like, well, okay, now if we go back, we're probably going to only do like the 3 months at a time and just keep kind of touring around the various countries in the area.
Yeah. We'd go back for 3 months and then leave it at that probably.
So now you're going back for another 2 months, and you think you will you will do something. You will water them. You will give them water.
Well, we're sure going to try. There's another party that's sort of invested in this. A man from France. He actually got a well dug in a neighboring valley to where we were for a community there, and he has a thing called School and Trees. So he opens schools and they plant trees. And he's really into sort of helping these communities also. So there's a few different parties involved. So I think, and based on his knowledge of already doing this once, it should be easy to facilitate doing it again. So
tell me, why are you doing this? Why? You spent your life helping others. Why? What is your motivation?
We don't know. We don't know where it comes from.
Honestly, it just feels better doing that.
Yeah. I mean, at first it was like, we can't just sit here. If we're going to be here painting murals and hanging out, we can't just sit here and enjoy ourselves while people are starving in the next community. We have to do something, right? And then we sort of fell in love with the villagers. They really have a want to make their lives better. They're not just... there's a certain amount of in Africa specifically of sitting around and waiting for foreigners to come and fix things for them, and there is some of that for sure. But they are also very open to learning. I mean, the biggest problem in Africa is the lack of education. They just don't have access to education. So, we could see that they were excited to learn. They could see that they wanted a better future. And it's just such a neat little community. They're already living so in touch with the environment. They're living in like little mud huts, a lot of them with thatched roofs. And we both really strongly believe in, zero carbon footprints and this kind of thing. And we can just see so much potential in that community for just to make their lives better with solar and all these permaculture techniques and showing them how to garden, do little home gardens and stuff. And we just sort of fell in love with the people and we just really want to help them.
So you're actually genuine humanitarian. You're genuine helper to the people. That's what you're doing. Yeah. And tell me, there in Uganda, where do you live? Is it a house or it is apartment or what is the place where you live?
It's
So
actually a hotel
yeah,
accommodation.
it's technically a hotel. So it's a property that has a campground, and then it only has like three-room hotel rental. Actually, then they just built a with a safari tent on it also, and there's a restaurant and a gift shop on site also. And the gift shop is really great because it's
This one, elephant, yes?
Elephant Home, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Elephant home. Okay, so you live. And how about the internet is bad there? Okay, internet is bad, I know.
Yes.
It was challenging. It's
very challenging, yes.
Now you're in Botswana for 1 month or for 2?
Well, our visa is for 90 days. We're house sitting for 6 weeks. We may take a little journey elsewhere in the country just to see something else. You know, when you're house sitting, you're sort of stuck in one place because we have a cat to feed and a house to take care of. So we might do a little bit of touring around Botswana when we're finished here. But then we're going to start making our way back up. But when we came from Uganda, we traveled overland to get here, and we did it really fast.
We did it within 10 days. 4 of those days were in Kigoma.
Yeah, we went from it would be like a 20-hour bus ride to a 6-hour bus ride, like a 30-hour train ride, and it was just like boom, boom, boom every day. It was crazy. We pretty much collapsed when we got here. So we're gonna travel back slowly and try to take a different route and see more of maybe Zimbabwe and Malawi and Tanzania and Kenya on the way back up.
Did you see my interview with her name is Dot? She's in Zimbabwe.
No.
You did not see it?
Cool.
No, I looked through a few of the interviews last night, but I didn't see that one.
Check her. She's in Zimbabwe, and actually she also doing something with the community. She also helping to the community in Zimbabwe. You need to yeah.
To meet with her.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Tanzania, are you going to visit Tanzania?
Oh yes.
Yes, we will
We
go back.
definitely want to go see Tanzania.
Yeah,
more of it.
Tanzania was a flash by when we came down, so we'd like to see more of it for sure.
Do you know already where you're going?
Oh, we have a few ideas, but we're not set on any specific spot yet.
No. Do you have recommendations?
I have a lady who is running childcare there, and she's actually inviting volunteers there.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah,
it
is in Arusha. Yes, Arusha. It is Arusha. I'll connect you. Okay, and then you are going back to Uganda to work on your project, and after, what will be after Uganda?
No,
you don't know yet.
Not a clue. There's countries in the area that we haven't seen yet, so we would like to check them out.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that we have a plan to go back to Uganda is crazy. We don't
usually plan.
We
to
never
do things
plan.
like that.
we sort of go day by day and take it one step at a time. Especially now with COVID. I mean, it's almost impossible to plan ahead. And even our plan to go back to Uganda might change if they close the borders. I mean, who knows, right?
Yeah.
So you just sort of take it one day at a time in these days and see what happens.
How it works with COVID in Africa, in reality? Did you see anywhere people are dying?
No, not in people are dying, but the most basically once we got to Zambia, we had to start wearing our masks again in public, and then once we got to Botswana, it's mandatory to wear your mask if you leave your house.
It's very strict here.
So basically, once we get in the vehicle and drive off the property, we put our masks on, and that's it.
Yeah, but prior to this, I mean, Egypt, the Egyptians didn't believe in it. The Sudanese didn't believe in it. Many of the Ugandans don't believe in it.
Yeah, Tanzania, no one wore masks.
They're just, and it's not sweeping across Africa the way it is in Europe and North America. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that they eat really good food. You know, they're not stuffing themselves with preservatives and just all the crap that we eat in North America.
They're usually cooking things from scratch and using whole foods, which is a really big difference.
They might be starving sometimes, but they're eating really good food.
Yeah, when they do eat food, it's usually really good.
Yeah, and
it is real food. They eat food, not crap.
Yeah. And then they live outside. Most bars and pubs are open doors.
Everything's
and things
open
like
air.
That.
Even the schools, schools don't have windows. You know, they're just sort of like a frame. with some bricks, and the classrooms are basically almost outside with just a metal roof. So I think that's a big difference here also, is that they're just there's air flowing all the time.
like
they're not
easy,
crowded in small spaces like we are in the north when it's cold. Especially. So it just hasn't really taken a hold here, and people are they're pretty lackadaisical. Nobody we talked to was really too concerned about vaccines. I mean, the odd person had a vaccine, but in general, they don't see the point. I mean, they're more worried about malaria and typhoid and starving, all the things that are really.
And what about malaria? By the way, did you have to make this vaccination, malaria vaccination?
We heard about it, but it hasn't really rolled out yet. So,
no.
But that will be a huge game changer. I mean, we did see many. We knew people who had family members who actually died of malaria while we were there.
And some of the workers at the property where we were staying also got malaria.
Yeah,
and
they got it. Yeah.
Like honestly, we didn't get it, thankfully. Mm-hmm. At least we haven't yet. However, basically, once I heard that there's a potential for a viable malaria vaccine, I did, okay, if that's one vaccine I would get, why not?
Yeah, we have our yellow fever vaccine
and typhoid.
Yeah. So malaria would be one I would definitely get for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Tell me, you are traveling with all your stuff by buses, by trains, by all this. Had you ever been robbed? Did you lose anything? Really?
No.
I was even saying last night that we have not been in one situation in the entire almost 2 years that we've been in Africa that has felt dangerous.
No.
Never.
Not at all.
We've never seen anyone with a gun or a knife or violent in any sense of the word. It's just been I don't know if we're just lucky or what, but it's been super peaceful.
Yeah.
We've not had any problems.
Mm-hmm.
Had you been really very careful, like you're not going anywhere far away, you're not going out in the evening, or?
For the most part, there in a lot of places there isn't a lot of nightlife, so there is no reason to actually go out.
There is no nightlife.
At night.
Well, it depends. I mean, in Kampala, like in Uganda, of course, there's bars and stuff.
So we would go out to restaurants in the evening and stuff.
Yeah.
But we're also we're past the age of going into nightclubs and partying, so it's we don't really care about doing that a whole lot anymore. We like to have a drink here and there, but we can also buy booze and stay at home.
Yeah, we're kind of homebodies. At nighttime, a lot is our creative time also. So we're happy when we can just hunker down and do art as well. So so we're not out a lot at night, but even in saying that, I mean, it's not because it would be dangerous. There's nowhere that we've been where we felt like, oh my God, I wouldn't go out there at night.
Well, when you're in Guatemala, there's neighborhoods that you obviously don't go to past them once the sun goes down. But
the Americas are different. Africa is definitely different than the Americas. The Americas, there is violence. There's knives and guns, and it is different for sure.
This is what I was going to ask, because we are going now in Mexico, and actually we lived with my son in Mexico for a year. And we had a lot of adventures there. Okay, we were careful. We did not really go everywhere. And we felt fine in Mexico. And in my imagination, Africa is much more dangerous than Latin America. No?
No.
Am I wrong?
No. Mm. A lot of the countries they're not allowed to have guns a lot of the time.
Really?
Whereas in Latin America is we've heard that guns are the locals can go and get a gun, no problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's a completely different scene here, and I think a lot of the fact that we haven't had stuff stolen and that kind of thing. It feels like the people really respect other people's properties because they don't have a lot. They themselves have much, so why would they take something from somebody else who doesn't have much? And even at Elephant Home, we would have our cell phones around. I mean, I try not to leave it just sitting there, but we'd have stuff around, and there'd be villagers there and locals there and whatever, and it was just never even a concern. Jason said no one will ever take anything. They just don't have that way of thinking in their mind. So it's just a totally different culture. And the same in Sudan. I mean, there would be,
Yeah.
I can't even imagine a person in Sudan taking something. I mean, of course, there must be bad people somewhere, but
we didn't see it. We didn't like, honestly, we walked through all sorts of neighborhoods throughout Port Sudan and
in the city,
and in Khartoum. Like there, like honestly, I didn't see much of a difference between the neighborhoods in general.
No, it's really peaceful here. It really is.
Yeah.
I remember in Mexico when we were traveling by bus, and it was also like 24 hours travel, and bus had many stops. On each stop, I had to go out of the bus and check that no one took our bags. And no, nothing happened actually. So Africa is safe. And what about in Mexico, we realized that we are gringo, actually. So the first impression that we are gringo until we will prove that we are not. So it is like, this is, then when you start to communicate with people, then they see, no, you're not a gringo. Okay. And how it is in Africa? You are white. They are not.
Yeah. Oh, we're always a target, as it is, but
it's not really a target to be robbed. People are basically just going to be like always asking us for money, or like in some countries, obviously like Egypt, where they try to overcharge you, things like that.
Yeah, we're the of that for sure. But it was never a question like that we were unsafe because we're white, for example. But we're always a target for people trying to get money, kids asking for money. I mean, it's constant. Or
like Jill gets hit on whenever we're not together, or I get hit on when we're not together, things like that. So it's like they may be looking for like a white person to marry to take them out of their country or something like that, but that's still not even that common.
And but I think like the way we travel also, I mean, if you're traveling with the locals on the bus, they don't see you as somebody who's wealthy that has lots of money that's gonna save their life. You know what I mean? You're just sort of a fellow traveler. So I think because of the way we travel, and we dress modestly, we're not flashy and whatever. So they treat us more like locals than
we're colorful and flashy in a way, but flashy, it's not like we're not flashy in the way like we're wearing gold or like a lot of expensive looking things.
And once we start talking to people, they sort of realize that we're not typical tourists, and and then often we'll say, we've lived here for 5 months, like don't try to fool us. We know what's going on here. So yeah.
So for the moment you're in Africa, do you have any plan to return to Canada?
Not really.
Not right now, that's for sure. It's I mean, you're going through in Australia, and it's really, parts of Canada are not far behind. They have all these vaccine mandates, and you need your vaccine passports and things. And we haven't been vaccinated, I'll admit it, but it's mostly because, I mean, we're not anti-vax, but we're also not super excited about this vaccine. But we haven't been in a situation where we could get one yet.
Nor have we been in a place where we absolutely need it.
Yeah, it hasn't felt like we need it, and there was like 50,000 cases of COVID, in a population of 80 million or something. And Sudan was like 20,000 or something like that. I mean, it just hasn't been so serious that we feel like if we don't get it, we'll be super sick. So we're not crazy about it.
Yeah, like when you go to countries where you absolutely need your yellow fever vaccine because, well, you can die from it, and if you go back to another country after you leave a different country that doesn't have yellow fever, they may not let you back in because of the dangers of the yellow fever itself. Whereas like COVID doesn't really seem to be that prevalent in Africa in the first place.
Not in Africa. I mean, only like something like I think 6% of all Africans are actually vaccinated. So I don't think there'll ever be any sort of a mandate. Like maybe in South Africa, Botswana is kind of inching towards being more like South Africa, but in the rest of Africa, I mean, they can't have any kind of a mandate because barely anybody is vaccinated. So
stay there. We will come to check Africa. Stay there. Don't go. We will come to check. Because as I understand, actually, you will be there in Africa.
Well, we're just so thankful to be here through this whole rigmarole. When we see what the rest of the world is going through. I mean, life here is is pretty normal.
Mhm.
And yeah, we don't want to give that up. We don't want to go back, back into Canada and back into the craziness. That's for sure. So,
No.
so we're good here for now.
No, man. Even like when we went back to Canada after living in Central America for 2 years, it was like reverse culture shock. It was like, oh my God, I cannot be here anymore.
Yeah, and that was pre-COVID.
That was pre-COVID, yeah.
By the way, it is exactly what happened with us, because we had been in Mexico for a year. We did Mexico and Guatemala. And then we came back to Australia, and our first month in Australia, it was so hard and so depressing because, wow, we don't want to live here anymore. And then we spent another year editing our film and presenting it to the world. And then COVID happened. And we appeared to be locked here. And we finally are going to take off, and for a long time also, and we are planning actually where we are going, so it is really very possible that we will come in Africa. And
we're totally recommend it.
Yeah, definitely recommend it.
highly recommend it. Yeah, tell me please, is it what about the animals there? Fauna, animals, did you see many animals everywhere? Monkey, tigers?
Yes. Yeah, so we've definitely seen lots of animals.
Yeah. It's so diverse. Like when we were on the bus coming from Tanzania to Zambia, we saw giraffes and zebras just on the side of the road.
Well, along with wildebeest, warthogs, and like
meerkats,
and all sorts. Yeah, you see a lot of things.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. It's really cool.
So, what it is more in your journey? Positivity or negativity? With all the hardness you're going through still. Another question.
Positive.
Are you regret of what you
positive?
Had you ever the regret?
The only negative thing we have is the PCR tests.
Yeah, dealing with COVID has been the only negative. But honestly, so I kind of had an epiphany coming here to Botswana, because we did a 30-hour train ride. We slept for 6 hours. Then we did a 16-hour bus ride. We slept for about 6 hours, and we did a 20-hour bus ride. We took a 2-hour break, and then we did an 8.5-hour bus ride. So that was like our final 3 days getting here. Mm-hmm. And the final day we got to Botswana, crossing the border into Botswana was difficult. Most border crossings they have a PCR test on site. Sometimes it only takes an hour to get your results. It was like super easy. So we arrived at the Botswana border sort of, we had heard it was a little more sticky, but we were a bit naive. Mm-hmm. And we had to get a PCR test that took 8 hours to get the results. And of course we were at the border at 6 a.m, and we were trying to get to our house that day because the owners were leaving the following day. And we thought, okay, we'll get started super early. We got up at like 4:30, caught the 5 o'clock bus, got to the border at 6. And the guy said, well, you need to get a PCR test. First of all, he told us we had to wait overnight. And I was like, no, we can't. We got to get to our friend's house and blah, blah, blah. And he said, well, there is a test you can do that will give you results today, but not until 3 p.m. And so we said, okay, fine. And, that's what we have to do. So the lady came, did her test, and then ended up telling us 5 p.m., which, so we waited. So we were at the border for 11 hours that day. And then thankfully there was a bus that night at 9 o'clock leaving from this nearby community that got us here to the house at 6 a.m. is when we arrived. Yeah. And then the owners left here at noon that day. So, but we were on that last night bus, and I woke up at something like 12:30. And I mean, I woke up and there was foxes on the road and elephants on the side of the road. And, and it was just like, oh my God, where are we? It was so crazy. But the music was playing, and I should have been absolutely miserable. I should have absolutely been hating my life in that moment. And I was grinning from ear to ear. And I was just like, this is so cool. I was so tired and so exhausted, but I was so happy. And I had that moment of this is it. I am so happy. This is what I love to do, despite the hardships, it's awesome, so.
So your main income, it comes from your digital products or from, I'm asking so many questions because I'm planning for myself what I'm going to do.
Yeah, no, it's a popular question. Yeah, so the income that we get, the small amount that we get, yes, comes from our online sales.
Mhm.
We do have a Patreon page also where we make a little bit of money per month. We only have 17 patrons, so if anybody wants to be our patron, we'd be so happy. But also, like, we're building our YouTube channel slowly, and that'll be an income stream moving forward.
Yep.
And then
We're writing books.
yeah, we're both writing books right now, so that'll be an income stream moving forward too. So we're still very much, I mean, we're 4 years into this, but we're still figuring it out. You know, it's not something that you just, we didn't want to jump off the rat race into a traveling rat race. You know, I mean, a lot of digital nomads they're doing the exact same things that they would be doing back home. You know, they haven't really taken the time to really find their passions, and
Yeah,
that's something that
exactly. This is what I feel. Yeah,
yeah.
this is exactly
Yeah,
what
so
I
we-
feel.
Yeah, we're just purposefully
I'm
being like,
filmmaker and I'm a musician. I like to. Okay, you go ahead.
sorry, I just said we purposefully on this journey been focusing on doing what we love,
Mhm.
and having faith that will all work out in the end. And you know, little slowly but surely things are building and building and building, and it is getting easier and easier. So it will happen. It takes time, but yeah, you just got to stick to that path and have trust that it's all going to work out.
Yeah.
I got it. Because what I love filmmaking and I love singing. So actually, we are singing with Nikita together and we are doing documentaries. And we have this YouTube channel. But when I started to think really about making a living from these online things, it is the same rat race, exactly. Just it is
Yeah.
digital rat race at the end, and I don't want to do it. My God.
Yeah.
So you're doing what you love to do.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And, you know, doing stuff like this, like house sitting and painting murals for accommodation, you know, if you can find ways to get free accommodation, that's like
That's a big
one third
part,
of your
yeah.
budget, basically. And then places like Uganda, if you find inexpensive countries to be, like Uganda, I mean, we were maybe spending $100 a week on food.
That's I think
Maybe.
even less.
Yeah,
Probably maybe
you
like
know.
between like 50 to 80.
And that included us like once a week going out for like a meal, which the meal would be like $3 or $4 for both of us. You know, so if you can find these places that are super cheap and inexpensive, you know, get a way to have accommodation, it's totally doable for sure. You don't need much.
Yeah.
Good. Can you give some advice to those who are scared to take off? Who want to do it but scared?
The only thing is like just do it.
Give us some motivation
Let
for
go-
courage.
So let go of everything and just take off.
Yeah. I think from our experience, well, yeah, I mean, you know, when we were selling everything, getting rid of everything, I had a couple of moments of meltdown. Like, what if we get to where we get to and I just cry because we don't have any stuff anymore, you know?
This is what I'm doing now, Jill. It is exactly what's going with me. Yes. I did, what are we gonna do?
No,
You will not miss
you won't
it.
miss it. I mean, the freedom of not having anything to tie you down and just having everything you own with you. Like, you know, in an hour, if we're in a place and we're not happy for some reason and we're just like, okay, we got to leave, we got to do something. Like in 1 hour, we have all of our shit packed and we're gone.
Yeah.
You know, there's no need to like stick around. There's no need to do anything you don't like to do.
Yeah.
It's a very, very freeing feeling. So I encourage you to keep going, even though it is scary. I know.
Yeah. I think the hardest thing to deal with was the pressure from other people about our own things. Like we had so many people like, you can't get rid of that. Why would you get rid of that? What? You shouldn't get rid of your house. Why would you get rid of your house?
Just rent it. Just rent it
out. Just rent it out. But no, if we did that,
We have no house. We are paying rent.
Yeah, it's like no, we don't. We can't do that. We need to let go of and cut all ties and move on.
Yeah.
That's the only way to do it.
And I think there's sort of a bit of I think there's a lot of people have a block of like that the world's a scary place, you know,
Yeah.
that they're going to get away from all of their creature comforts and be miserable
Yeah.
because there's nothing there for them or whatever. But it's surprising. Each place you get to, it's more developed than you think, and it's more put together than you think, and the people are so friendly. I mean, for the most part, 99.9% of the population are just lovely, lovely people, and it's just getting to know people and learning about cultures is really just so enriching and so rewarding in so many ways. So, yeah.
So yes, just pack and take off.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much for your time. And can you please tell us about all your online presence? You have website, what is the website? Artistic
Voyages. Like it is down below.com. Yeah, that's sort of the catch-all. You'll find everything that we're doing on that page. I do need to update a couple. It's pretty current. It leads you also to our online shops and our Patreon page and our YouTube channel and all that stuff. So that's sort of the catch-all place. And we're on Instagram and Facebook under that name as well.
And Chris, do you have the Facebook? Chris does not have the Facebook.
Oh, I have Facebook. I just I don't do
you
much
do?
on it.
No. Okay, because I tried to find you. Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for your time and enjoy.
Thank you.
Now in Botswana, what you are doing? You just have cats there and that's it?
One cat. Yeah, just one cat.
And there's
just one cat.
Birds. We have to throw bird seed out for some birds here once in a while too, but they're not actually owned by the people here.
Yeah, there's wild, so.
Yeah.
Okay, and this website.
Sorry.
The website is what you said, House Carers, yes?
housecarers.com. Yep. And I find we did join Trusted House Sitters for a little while, and it's more expensive for the membership, and I found that there was a ton more competition. So by the time I would see a listing, there was 50 people had applied or something. Whereas House Carers is there's less people on the platform, so there's less postings, but you have a much better chance of actually getting the gig than you do on Trusted House Sitters. So, and also with House Carers, people find you. Maybe they do that on Trusted House Sitters, but we've often been approached or just based on our profile. So my advice for those platforms is to have a very comprehensive profile. If you have a website, link it. If you can get reviews, put them on there, and have pictures of yourself with animals. And just make sure that the profiles are really well done, so that people who are searching for house sitters will find you.
Yeah.
I got it. Yes, we do have experience with animals. I just want to show you our animals. Just one moment.
Okay.
Никита, давай кроликов покажем. Никита, возьми Машу. Возьми Машу, иди сюда. Быстрее. Возьми Машу. This is Bunny Kuzia.
Nice.
They're the hardest to let go of.
Yeah.
Yes. This is the hardest. And this is Bunny Masha. And this is Bunny Masha. And this is Bunny Nikita. Hello. This is the other traveler. This is my son. Yes, this is those who are the hardest to leave. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had 2 cats that we had to let go of, and we cried for days. That was the hardest part for sure.
Yeah.
And you left your cats for your parents?
No. We found other people to take them. Put them in their home.
I'm searching.
Sorry.
I'm searching for 2 months already for someone to take them. I can't. No. I don't know. Okay, we are getting rid of all the possessions. We are searching for someone who will watch our bunnies, and that's it. And Australia is so far away. It's just one-way ticket.
Yes.
Okay.
Pretty much, yeah.
That is the way.
Pretty much. Okay. It was really encouraging. Thank you so much. And
Okay,
Thank
thank
you as
you.
well.
Good luck with
even
everything.
I have several questions. I will write to you on the Facebook.
Anytime.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you
Take care.
everybody for watching. You can follow this on the Facebook, on my Facebook group, and on the YouTube channel. On the YouTube channel, it will be available forever, somewhere in half an hour.
Great.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Awesome. Okay.
Thank you.
Take care. Good luck with everything.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
And